So, girls, I'm about to be starting. So,
Okay, Robbie, let him in. Here we go, guys. Here we go.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So glad to have you once again in the Flying by the Seat of Our Pants Morro Bay Bird Festival Winter Zoom Festival. And we are glad you're here. We've already had quite a morning. Boy, we've learned about some tracking. We've learned about birding by ear. We've learned about condors. We've got stories from red-tailed hawks. It's been a great morning. And we've got a couple hours right now of John Muir Jack Laws about nature journaling, specifically how to draw birds. And that's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to that. Before we get into that, a couple little quick updates. We are recording all of these Zoom presentations. And Bob, can you tell us anything about where we're at? You know, what's the status of these Zoom presentations and where can I see one if I've missed one? Like if I was out hiking this morning and not watching one of these festivals, where could I see the ones that I've missed?
You can go to our website and you will find a link there that will take you to all of our video recordings. We now have posted video recordings from Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And hopefully by tomorrow morning, you'll be able to see all of the recordings from today. You can go to our website and you can find a link that will take you to a special page where you can click on the videos, but I am going to post that right now in the chat. You'll have a clickable link that will take you directly there. So thank you for asking, Chris.
Great, and I hope you go to the chat, cut that little address and paste it to all your pals in your social media so they can find the events that we've already done that have been filmed. So again, a couple little housekeeping things. We are making all of these things available for free, but if you have more money than you know what to do with, we're looking for some donations because the dust has not yet settled, so we don't know how the bills are coming in from the festival that was canceled at the last moment. So we need to pay those bills, and we'd like to have a little extra so we can have an in-person festival next year. I just yelled down to the treasurer, that's Rosemary, my wife. She's doing all the refunds as we speak. And when she gets a minute, she will come back up and tell me how we're doing on donations. Last night, it was like, I don't know, $8,500 or something. So that's pretty good. So let's see, we will have an opportunity to chat with John Muir Laws, and he will open those things up when he gets an opportunity someplace during the program. I think, I'm sorry, Bob, you probably already put that that screen up that showed the places you can donate, right? So you can donate by mail, you can donate by, go to the Bird Festival website and donate by a link, or you can hold your fancy schmancy phone up to one of those squiggly codes and make a donation by Venmo or by PayPal. So thanks if you can make a donation, that's really helpful. So we've had some really good presentations, but today we're going to be talking about nature journaling. And I swear on a stack of unfilled journals and unopened boxes that this year might be the year that I'm going to do some nature journaling. I really would like to. One of these days, it's gonna kick in. It hasn't yet. But John Muir or Jack Laws is going to be giving us a presentation. Rosemary, do you have an update? Okay, Rosemary is going to come over here, and before we introduce Jack, Rosemary, what's the update on the donations?
Hi there. First of all, thank you so much to everybody for your generosity and just sticking with us. We have had about $10,000 come in through PayPal, and we have had about, I'd say 1,250 through Venmo, And then we've got some additional money that has come in from people not wanting their registration fees back. So, so we're just plugging along because it's hard for us to estimate what costs we're going to have to cover. So anyways, just trying to stay alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. So she's downstairs doing money. I'm upstairs in the attic hosting Zoom. And our guest today is John Muir, or Jack Laws. Now, if you don't know who this guy is, he's a scientist, he's an educator, he's an author. He's got a pile of books. Most nature folks have a couple of his books on the shelf, you know, like Idea of Nature stuff in the Sierras, or how to draw this or how to do that. And so we really appreciate the work he's done, but mainly his job is to help people forge a deeper and more personal connection with nature through keeping an illustrated nature journal and helping them to understand science and be more cognitive of what's around them. His work intersects science and art and mindfulness. He's been trained as a wildlife biologist. He's an associate of the California Academy of Sciences, and he observes the world with rigorous attention. We've seen that from his previous ones, and we'll see it again today. He looks for mysteries, plays with ideas, seeks connections in all he sees. Attention, observation, curiosity, and creative thinking are not just gifts, but they're skills that grow with training and deliberate practice. And as an educator and author, Jack teaches these techniques and supports routines that develop these skills to make them a part of your everyday life. So Jack, have at it. We'll see you for 2 hours. Have fun, and I'll talk to you soon.
Hey, thank you so much, Chris. Actually, but before you go, so while you're still here, I want to make an appeal to the community who is watching this to stand with me to support the Bird Festival. At the end of this, I'm going to be going online, and my family is going to be making a donation to support them and the work that they're doing. And here's why I think this is important. Celebrating birds together brings people together, both connecting with nature and also builds the kind of community that we need to help push our society to embrace stewardship as one of the kind of founding ethics of how we live. And doing that together is, first of all, a ton of fun. But it's really important for the sort of community building that we need to create ourselves as a society of stewards. The Morro Bay Winter Bird Festival is, I think, is one of the premier bird festivals in the country. They spent 2 years, the last one was closed down by COVID. They spent 2 years preparing this year's festival. They had an amazing lineup of speakers. They had buses for everybody. They had all the sites figured out. They had purchased venues, and all the logistics were in place. And then moments before the festival start, Omicron just blew up to the degree that it wasn't safe to do it anymore. And to keep all of us safe, they did something that is very hard to do as a human being, especially when you have invested a ton of time in anything, is to change course. And they did. And they didn't just do that, they then created this event for free. And I think that really kind of speaks to where their head and heart and ethics are. And they're taking a huge financial hit by not holding the Bird Festival. But if they did, the possibility that one of us could have gotten seriously ill and died was too much. They canceled the festival to keep us safe. And I so respect that. Again, that's really, really hard to do in the face of having put in years of work into something and have that kind of snatched away from you. So what my family's going to be doing is sending a donation to help support the festival and the continued work that they do. And I want to encourage you, if you are able to do so. And I know there's some people, the COVID right now it has turned everybody's finances, on its head. if you are able to do so, please to join with me in supporting this festival. And it's going to make a big difference for them to continue the kind of education and stewardship that they do. And next year, I want to invite everybody to come on out to Morro Bay. This festival is spectacular. It's spectacular. And the community, you're going to love it out here. It's just the people, as you've seen here, the folks who are flying by the seat of their pants, it's a joyful celebration of the world of birds. And I'm really honored to be a part of it. And I want to continue to support you. So Chris, thank you for the work that you have done in the past, the work that you're doing, and the way that you guys have handled the situation. I think it is noble. It was the right thing, and it's beautiful. So mad respect.
Thank you, appreciate it. Bob and Jeanette stayed up all night putting those the recorded ones on the website. So we haven't had a lot of sleep or a lot of food, but now what am I supposed to do with these things?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
I don't know.
I'm glad you asked. Let's actually go there now, because what I'd like to do is for the next 2 hours is to give you folks all a crash course in drawing birds. And you're thinking, but wait, drawing birds, what, the birds are going to fly off. The birds are going to move. Some of them do. Some of them do. And so if you just sort of see this little blur through the trees, you can say, there's a bird here. You can't really do much more with that. So you don't need to have super stop motion memory crazy vision. My eyes are no better than anybody else's. I don't have a photographic memory. But the more that I work at drawing birds, what it does is it forces me to look again and to look again and to look again at the birds. You're going to see that if you start making sketches of the birds that you see, several things are going to happen. One is you're going to learn birds much faster. If you've ever gone out on one of these birding trips and there's this, and there's this, and you come back and go wow, there were a lot of birds, right? But how do you tell them apart? Right? It's not sticking. So the work that we do to kind of take what we see and put it down on the page is glue for your brain. And all that stuff is going to get stuck on your neurons, and it's going to make a huge, huge difference in you being able to learn these birds. You're also going to get better and better and better at drawing. So drawing birds, you don't have to be an artist to do this. So this is really, really important. I want to really stress this. So this is not something where if you're an artist, great, go ahead, you draw yourself some birds, but everybody else, you're out of luck. So we have this myth about drawing, that drawing is a gift that some people have and some people don't. It turns out that it is a skill that anybody can learn to a high degree of technical competency if we start doing it on a regular basis. So if you start making when you go out birding, if you keep yourself a little notebook and make little sketches of birds, you're going to get better at birding. You're going to learn, you'll go like, oh my gosh, I can draw. And if you start to draw like this on a regular basis, when you're going out on all your birding trips, at the end of 1 year, your friends will be turning around to you and saying oh man, you're so lucky that you can draw. I wish I could do that because it really helped with taking notes, but I wasn't born an artist. So in just 1 year earlier, you're like, I don't know if I can do this. I could just, so everybody talks about the stick figures. I can only draw stick figures. Great. Because that's how we're going to start our birds. And we're going to build it up from there. And if you just keep at this, you're going to get better and better. So I'm going to suggest that everybody to make your goal for this, that your goal is don't make your goal initially to, I want to make pretty pictures of birds. Make your goal that I want to learn about birds. I want to be able to remember what I see. And I want to use this as a tool to get myself to notice sorts of details that I otherwise wouldn't have seen. If you do that, right, then whenever you make a sketch, it is successful. And our brains like that. And you don't beat yourself up about the art side of things every time you sketch a bird, but you keep putting in those sketches. In 1 year, you're going to see a huge change in your ability to, the bird lands in front of you, boop, 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 that bird just appeared on the paper. Over the last bunch of years sketching birds, I've changed and modified and refined and then refined my system of how I think it is the easiest to get that bird onto my piece of paper. And I'm going to show you that. This isn't the only way of drawing birds. It's not the right way of drawing birds, but a lot of people have found this really useful. So try it on, see if it works for you. We're going to have a chance to kind of work with that. And then, you know, just absorb what is useful. Take what is useful from this and kind of incorporate that into the way that you do things. And you're going to see that it's going to work for you. You can do this. Yes, I'm talking to you. You can do this. So what's going to be going on is I'm going to be projecting a Zoom on Zoom here. I'm going to be projecting a presentation, and on the side I'm going to have a my camera, instead of showing my lovely face, is going to be my piece of paper with me drawing along with you. And if you are looking at this on a tablet or your phone, I don't think it really has this capacity, but on people who are seeing this on computers, very often you'll have your big Zoom window, and then there'll be the little cube over on the side with my face in it. And between those, is a little vertical white line. That vertical white line is a handle. And what you can do is put your mouse on that and move it back and forth. And so you can make, if you want to make the screen that has the demonstration on it of say the PowerPoint presentation on it, you can make that bigger. It might be a photograph of a bird. Or you can make the one where I'm drawing bigger. So you get to control with that little slider how big each one of those is. I'm afraid we can't do that on phones. And I think on some tablets it doesn't have that functionality. But on lots of other devices, you'll be able to, that's kind of a cool thing that they cooked into Zoom. So if you know that, that allows you then to customize this program. Like, I want to see that bigger. Whoop, okay, oh, I see what you're doing. Whoop, okay, now I can see the other thing. All right. We are going to be pausing in the middle and then at the end to take kind of questions from you. And initially what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my starter lines. What are the first lines I use to kind of frame in the bird? And then we are going to have a chance to practice with that. And then we'll stop and kind of have some questions. And if you feel comfortable doing so, during that, you just use the raise hand function. And I will make it possible for you to speak, and we'll make your picture big next to mine. We'll have a little conversation. We'll say, hi, Jack, I was doing this. You can hold up your picture. It's like, this wasn't working for me. Like, what's going on with this? Or if you've got a question or anything related to that. All right. And then once we've gone through a few of those questions, we'll go back into more of a presentation, and we'll go kind of a little bit more of the details of drawing birds. So first I'm going to show you how to get that kind of quick shape onto the paper that looks like the bird. And so not just like a generic bird, that species that you're looking at. And so we'll take a look at how to do that. And then the detail section will come after that. All right, it's going to be fun. So the tools that you need some kind of paper. I've just got some typing paper here. And that kind of dates me, doesn't it? They're calling this typing paper. Remember when there were typewriters? And we put those into the, oh, wow. And just, I've got a pencil. So that's all you need. But you're going to want to have those, because you can watch like that. But if you watch like this, right, your brain's going to soak up a lot more. So I'm going to encourage everybody, get yourself your little piece of paper, get yourself a pencil, and you're going to be filling up several different pages with this. And it's going to be fun. All right. Here we go. Welcome to the Seat of the Pants Bird Festival. We are going to now draw us some birds. So first step, I am going to turn my camera to this. Whoop, whoop. There it is. There's my pencil. And now let's share our screen. Share. Play. And there we are. So this is, so we're going to be going through several different kind of exercises to help us kind of block in and be able to sketch a bird. Hold on a second. I am going to hide video panel there. And I am going to just doing a little bit of housekeeping here. All right, so whoops, there we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be first showing you, actually, this might be a good moment just to see if you have a, if you've got a computer, see if you can experiment right now with, you'll see on the right-hand side of your screen, there's that little box which has, you see this little piece of paper in it, but it's kind of small, hard to see what's going on in there. To the left of that box is a little white handle, and grab that and see if you can move it to right and left on your screen to make your screen larger or smaller. See how that works? So you can either see the big screen with these two little blue shapes on it, or what you can do is you can move it so that you can see the place where I'm going to be drawing. So what I'm going to be doing at the start is showing you how to do detailed sketches like the two that you see here on this page. And you're thinking like, oh no, these aren't really, you know, detailed sketches. I want to draw birds, not like a little snowman thing. But this is the scaffolding that goes under any drawing that I do. And it happens really fast. So I will actually do a little demonstration of one down here. I look out and I see a bird. And what I'm going to be doing is showing you how to kind of block in sort of its basic shapes. And at the end of this little workshop, you'll be able to get something that kind of looks like that, right? So that's my goal for this. But this part ends up being really, really important. Everybody wants to draw all the details on the bird. But if I don't have the basic scaffolding underneath that bird working right for me, it's not going to feel like that bird, no matter how many details I want to put on. So everybody wants to kind of to focus on that, but it's the important things. One of the most useful things I can do at the start is actually not to look at the bird, but to look at the space next to the bird. If you take a look at these two birds, there's sort of that blue zone in front of their throat and behind here. So on my little birdie here, this area back here, right? And this area here in front of its throat. What I do is I look at, I look past my bird at the shapes of the air in these zones. And that actually is going to sculpt and mold a lot of what I put on the paper. From there, once I get this basic bird scaffolding in, I can get in there and draw details on top of that. And that's what gets everybody's attention. But it doesn't matter how many scrub J details I put on something. If it has the proportions of a wren, it's not going to feel like a scrub jay, even if I put scrub jay features on it. So what I've got here is here's a little chickadee, and what I want folks to notice on this chickadee is everybody draw a sort of ball on your page, right? Draw a little ball, and now measure on the screen. Use this chickadee's head. Take your thumb up and hold 1, 2. Notice that this chickadee's body is about 1.5 chickadee heads long. So if my head is this long, my chickadee body is going to be a ball about like this, right? And so for this to feel like a chickadee, I need to have a big head on my body. In contrast to that, this is a mourning dove. Everybody draw a ball on your piece of paper, right? And let's use that like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now maybe 5 or 6 heads long, maybe more, to get the size of that body. So if I am trying to draw this dove, and I need to have proportionately a much larger body compared to that head. And the way you get that is not with a slow, careful drawing. When your brain is drawing, when your pencil is drawing slowly and carefully, your brain isn't soaking up the big picture idea of the sizes of things. It's focusing on detail. So if you ever drawn a picture of a person and made the head too big, well, you're human. We tend to draw the parts of something that were the most interesting to us way too big. And human beings are really interested in other people's heads. And so we draw them too big. So that's why people will draw, raptors with huge talons and huge beaks. They kind of look like toucans because we're really interested in those features. And so we exaggerate the size on a piece of paper. The start of a drawing is getting down these kinds of proportions. And so it's not going to be a slow, careful drawing. Actually getting the relative size of the head relative to the body is a big, big deal. And the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the shape of the air along the back of this bird, along the back of the bird. My first line is the line along the back of the bird. So if you look here, this scrub jay has its head up at an angle and then a line going along its back. This little wren here, the back and the head are all in a straight line. So what is the shape that I get back there? Maybe it's this, maybe it's this up here, right? So my first line on my piece of paper is going to be that. Let's take a look at a couple of real birds. Don't look at the bird. Well, first of all, look at the bird. I mean, gorgeous. At this point, I want to send a shout out to Vivek Kanzode, who is the photographer at birdpixel.com. And Vivek encourages artists to use any of the photographs on his website to inspire our art and encourages us to come here and make use of these. So I just want to send out a shout to Vivek Kanzode and also to encourage you folks to go there to get reference material that you can use in your own art. Wonderful, wonderful, very well curated site with professional photography. So notice that when you look at the bird, you were going like, oh my gosh, look at this cool business going around by your eye. And oh, you've got a really cute eye. And look at that beautiful glossiness. And you've got all these feathers in there. And the wonderful contrast. Bam, 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 bam. Oh, you're just spectacular. So we're focused on all the details. When our brain is focused on the details, we can't really see and think about the proportions very well. So instead, when I'm looking at a bird, first I just kind of let myself geek out and celebrate. Oh gosh, you are absolutely lovely, absolutely lovely. But then what I do is I look at the shape of the air behind this bird. What I want you to do is to get your pencil up and in the air trace it. Air sort of, so it's going to come down and then along the back of the bird. Notice when you're kind of looking at the shape of the air behind the bird, that you see those angles more clearly than when you're actually looking at the bird. So artists call this looking at the negative shape. The negative shape is I'm not looking at the bird, I'm looking at this shape back here of the distant grass. And it comes down, it changes angle here, it changes angle here, right? So that's what I want to get. So on my piece of paper, what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line that comes down and then it changes its angle, maybe a steeper angle, and then it goes out like that. So that is my first line. That's how I start my drawing of my bird. And on different birds, this angle on the back is going to be in all sorts of different poses. Let's take a look at a different pose. All right, so here we have, again, this is kind of head up. Let's draw not the details of the bird, but look at the page. And actually, let's just try to do this. Try to draw without looking down at your piece of paper, right? So kind of come down. What is the angle behind the head? What is the angle of the back, right? That's how we start. And then let's try it with this. Let's first air draw, hold your pencil up, close one eye, and trace your pencil along the back of the head. What is that angle? Hold your hand at the angle as if you're petting the bird. I want you to pet the bird. Reach your hand up and put your hand on the back of the bird, pet the bird. Feel your hand coming down. Notice the angle that your hand is moving when you pet the bird. Really pet the bird, right? I'm looking at you on the group screen, and some of you are not petting the bird. You want you to really, because what you're doing is you're actually kinesthetically getting that angle into your hand. You can also air pet the bird with your pencil, right? You're kinesthetically getting that angle in. Now, turn over to your piece of paper and draw that angle in on your piece of paper. That's your first line for that bird, that line along the back of its head and its back. But wait, there's more, because here's one more bird. Let's pet the bird. Pet the birds. First start, pet the bird, feel that angle, feel that angle. It's not quite horizontal. It's kind of coming in and then kind of going like that. There's a little bit of a bump. Maybe I've got too much of a bump there. It's pretty subtle. It's very close to flat, but not quite flat. So pet the bird and then get that angle down on your piece of paper. That is how we start our drawing of a bird. And what we're going to do is we are going to, from that scaffolding, we are going to hang all our details from that line. We're going to hang the body and the head and all the details from that line. So that one line, it creates the back of the frame of our bird that's going to give our bird its posture and make it look really cool. So the next thing that I do is from that line, right? So let's say I've got a line like this. I'm going to look at, remember we had birds with big heads, we had birds with little heads. Generally, little birds have big heads proportionately. And big birds tend to have littler heads proportionately, exception being the kingfisher, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my bird and I'm going to say, I'm going to give it a head. And is it a chickadee? No, this is a chickadee. This will be some sort of maybe a wren or a warbler sized bird. So I'm going to give this bird a little kind of a ball of the head here. I would give my bird a bigger head if it was a little bird. So I start with the back of the bird and then I hang the head from that. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at what is the negative shape in front of the throat of this bird. What is the negative shape, not on the back here, but in front of the throat of the bird? Very often there's a little bit of a curve and then an interesting angle right where it meets the point of the chest. So what I'll do is from my head, sometimes it's just dropping down pretty steeply, right, like this, right? On other birds, there is, sometimes there's a different little kind of angle in there. There's a little slope. I'm not trying to draw the whole front of the bird, just getting this angle in here.
Hey, Jack, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you supposed to be showing a picture of a different bird? We have several people asking. We're seeing two screens, one with the 5 birds on the left, sketch of 5 birds.
You're seeing a sketch of 5 birds.
On the left screen.
So you're seeing with the wren and the scrubjay.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Wren,
Oh, yes,
Scrubjay,
yes.
Yeah.
And then to the right of that, there are some blue lines.
Okay, several people are confused. They think you're showing a photograph.
No, currently I'm not showing a photograph.
Okay,
You're seeing all the things that I'm showing.
Thank you.
Right. Actually, so you can actually put the throat in first, or you can put in what I call the eye beak line. So the eye beak line is, what direction is my bird looking? And in just a moment, you're going to see that this one line gives you lots of information. The bird's beak is going to be oriented right along that line, and the bird's eye is going to sit right along that line. We'll kind of get more to that later. But at the start, all I do for this kind of eye beak zone and this kind of critical direction that the bird is looking is I put in my little eye beak line. So what direction is my bird looking? And I could either do the throat first or that eye beak line. Either are good. But so here I have the negative shape on the back of the head, a little ball for my head, my eye beak line, and then the front of the throat. And I've got two drawings going here simultaneously because I wanted to have one where the head was up a little bit, where there's not a totally straight back, and one where it was just straight along the back. Because once I have this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tuck into this, I think of this back here, and then this front curve of the bird as kind of a catcher's mitt for my bird's body. Because the bird's body is going to fit into, be a ball or an egg that is going to fit into that space behind it. And so I will put that in, sort of being mindful of whether this is a big-headed bird or a little-headed bird. And from there, I can add a few other little details. The bird's tail is going to pivot from a point somewhere about in here and can either be down like this, it can be up like this, it can be out like this. So I'm going to put in a little line where my bird's tail is. It may be straight with a line of the back, or it might be at a slightly different angle. And I'm also going to notice where along the bottom of this curve here, my legs come out, probably somewhere not quite towards the middle of it, a little bit further back from that. You're going to have your legs coming out at a forward angle. And initially I put in just a little ball where its foot is going to be. I'm then going to put in a couple of other angles. One is I look at, does my bird have a steep forehead like a plover, or does it have a really flat forehead like a meadowlark, or is it something in between? So I will look at what kind of angle does my bird have on its forehead, and I will also put in one other line for the what are called the Undertale Coverts. So the tail here, there's a pad of feathers that goes from the back of this sort of egg here, is going to kind of smooth in your sort of, so the tail isn't abruptly sticking out of this thing. You're going to have a little bit of a pad of feathers by the tail. And I've got most of my basic bird drawing here. The next thing I'm going to do is just notice where its wing is. And for the wing, I'm going to draw the wing kind of on the side here. I'll show you what I suggest you do for the wing. I'm going to actually first put one in here. I'm going to suggest that you notice sort of where in here does the wing start. Put a little X where the first see the wing. And then note, does the tail dip down below the, does the wing dip down below the tail here, in line with the tail or up above? All right, I'm going to put this one slightly up above, all right? And I draw a little line in there for the front leading edge of the wing. And then I'm going to put in a little ball to represent sort of the thick part of the wing, the secondary feathers. So my kind of quick and dirty initial wing is I put in my front leading edge of the wing where the primary feathers are. That's going to be here. And then there's going to be another sort of mass of feathers that sticks up on top of that. That's my initial kind of go-to wing shape.
Jack, sorry to interrupt. Can you pan a little bit to the right to get, there we go. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. So look at this bird here, this tropical parula. It has, its wing is starting in here, kind of close to the front. See where this little point of the wing is, that can be actually start anywhere in this area because it's on, there's a shoulder, an elbow, there's a wrist up in here. All those can move around to make this part of the bird appear in different sorts of places, but it'll generally be somewhere up in here. This one is starting pretty close to the front and it's dipping down below the tail. So if I had my sort of ball of my body here, I would start it, and let's give this bird a tail. All right. So I would be starting somewhere in here and I would be dipping down. Compare that, and also notice, so this is this line here, this front edge of the wing. That's what I'm doing with that big long straight line. That's what is that big line, straight line is. This big mass of feathers here, you see that? That's that ball that I'm drawing on top of the wing. That's the sort of a ball of secondary feathers. So when I've got this and then I've got my ball of secondary feathers, we'll get fancier with our feathers later. Notice that this bird, all right, this one is starting a little bit further in. Okay, so from this point, and then it is going up to just above the tail tip. So this bird would be going from here, and then its wing would be coming in like that. So whether the wing is drooped or whether it's tucked up on the back, that's what I'm catching with that sort of initial wing gesture.
Hey, Jack, sorry to interrupt again. I'm
Yeah.
getting flooded with questions. They're wondering, which bird are you sketching?
So I'm there is no individual, there's no one bird that I'm sketching here. The stuff that I'm putting down on my piece of paper here is, I'm not looking at any photographic reference. I'm just sort of creating a generic bird. What we're going to be doing in a moment is I'm going to be putting up a slide. I'll be drawing and you'll be drawing the same bird as I am. I just wanted to show people kind of the overall plan of where we're going with this. And actually, we're at that part of the show right now. So let's take a look at how this works on, say, a bird, on this little picture of the California scrub jay here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start by petting the bird and feel that this bird has a pretty steep angle on the back of its body. I'm going to put in a ball for a head, noticing sort of a medium-sized head here, and this bird is looking out in this direction. Now look at that negative shape under its throat. See that? There's kind of comes back down to the top of the chest to a little bit of a curve here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and kind of curve that down. And that gives me a place to sort of tuck an oval of a body down into here. This bird has a tail that is sticking out in this direction. And its legs are, actually, first, we probably should have put it in those Undertale Coverts. Undertale Coverts, and the angle of the forehead. This one has a little bit of a lip up, and then it comes pretty flat back. So I'm looking at, what is that shape there? Now, where are the legs? So the legs are kind of coming out from somewhere in here and out at a forward angle. The closer one is here, that further one is back at a little bit of a steeper angle. The last little thing that I'm going to do on this bird is give it a wing. So I'm going to start that wing somewhere up in here. And where is it going to go? It's going to go to just below the tip of the tail here. And give it a little bit of a ball. So that would be my starter kind of sketch lines for this scrub jay. And this process can go fairly quickly. So I'm going to draw this again, but instead of pausing after each one of these, you'll kind of get to see kind of real time what this looks like. I would kind of draw, right, my bird has a back here. and it's got a head kind of in here. It has a neck that comes down, and then there's a ball in here. It got a little bit of a tail sticking off here, and a nice little forehead angle. All right. And what about legs? You're going to have one here, one down here. Oh, this bird needs a wing. Let's give it a wing. There we go. I have now a little sketch that is going to allow me to I've got the basics of that bird down. Let's try a different bird. We're going to do this one together. It's another scrub jay. Pet the bird. Notice the angle of that back. Steeper, right? So that's why I want this to kind of come down and have a steep, want a steep back like this, and then the head maybe comes up at a slightly steeper angle. I'm going to have a ball for my head. And what it comes down there, the head comes down, the angle comes down, out slightly, and down. And then there's a ball for the body. Tail is coming straight down here. My dad always loved to point out scrub jays with their tails sticking down. He loved that posture. This one has undertail coverts that kind of come up in here. And what about the forehead? We're going to come up a little bit and then flat. Oh, I forgot to give this one an eye beak line, didn't I? That's all right. I'll put it in now. What about legs? We've got one coming down here. And then there's a branch that it's sticking on that is coming up there. The other one is hidden for us. So it's going to put in a ball where those are. And lastly, we get a wing. Now this wing is above the thing, so it's going pretty further back. So notice that there's a kind of a bigger space here. So this one's going to start further back, and it's going to end out here. So noticing where that wing starts and where it ends really helps me get the angle for that. And let's bulk that wing out just a little bit. Those would be my starter lines for this scrub jay. Let's try this one. All right, I'm not going to talk you through this one. And actually, what I'm going to ask everybody to do is first to pat the bird, and then just to put in your guidelines, how you would kind of block in this bird. Then I will talk you through how I would go about it, using my approach. And then you'll do it a second time. So you're going to do the sketch of this bird 2 times. First time, let's just draw from what's on your screen. Draw the angle of the back. Go for it. So I'm not going to talk you through. You get to go.
Can you move the sketch pad on camera? There we go.
So now I'm going to kind of draw this and show you kind of how I'd approach it. And then you're going to do it one more time. So I'm first going to pet the bird. Look at the angle of that back. Pretty flat, all right? So initially I'm seeing something that's kind of an angle like this along the back of my bird. My head is up at a slightly different, slightly higher angle, and nice kind of lean out. My bird is looking this way. There is a kind of curve of the throat that comes down, and then that goes into the front of the chest. So that puts my ball of my body fairly horizontal. And my tail is coming out close to the same angle as my back. And I'm going to give it some Undertale Coverts, those nice fluffy white Undertale Coverts there. What about an angle of the forehead? Oh, look at this. This is interesting. I'm not really seeing a big step up there. It's more kind of smooth. Smooth and flat. The leg is coming out fairly far forward here. And even further forward than that, about from here. Okay, so that's coming down and it's holding on to a branch. The branch is coming up here and I don't see the other leg. It has a wing that is starting fairly high on the chest. So I'm seeing a lot of chest and that's being tucked up over the back. And there's another leg that is hidden back behind it. That gives me my basic scrub J. Now you do it again. I love scrub J's. Always wanted to go to Florida and see that, watch the scrub jays out there that have these kind of colonies that take care of nestlings together. That's crazy. Corvids are just so interesting, really doing cool things.
Jack, I have to come back with some more questions.
Yes.
Of the 5 birds on the sketch pad to the left that I'm seeing on the left, you're doing the top center bird, correct? Of the 5 birds, a sketch of the 5 birds.
A sketch of the 5 birds. On my page in front of me, I see a sketch with 4 birds on it.
No. I'm sorry. You're doing a split screen right now.
Yes.
Okay. Do you see your other screen?
So the other screen, are you seeing one picture
of what you're drawing?
Of what I'm drawing? There's one picture of a scrub jay in a horizontal posture.
A single bird on a picture?
A single bird with persimmons, the scrub jay with persimmons.
We're not seeing that.
You're not.
We're not seeing that. That's what we're trying to tell you.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, sir. We're seeing the 5 birds. Looks like a white-crowned sparrow, meadowlark.
Holy smoke.
Yes.
I don't know quite what's going on. Let me try this again. I'm going to go to screen share.
Yeah.
Hold on one moment. Sorry, I thought I had all of these images up that were clear. So let's escape this. I'm going to go to screen share. Are you now seeing a scrub jay with persimmons?
Yes, sir.
Holy, I wonder what was going on.
We had some very confused people.
Oh, yeah, that would be crazy confusing.
Okay, we're good now, and I'll interrupt you if we go off track again.
Yeah, so let's kind of back up here when we were back, let me just kind of go back in this discussion, because that makes me think that there's been, you haven't been able to see the demonstration slides that I thought you were looking at. So back here, when I was talking about the chickadee, were you seeing this bird?
No, we were not, unfortunately.
Wow, how weird. How weird, because on my presenter screen, I see this big chickadee, but you are currently seeing a chickadee on yours.
We're seeing the scrub jay.
You're seeing a scrub jay right now?
Yes.
I'm seeing a chickadee. Oh dear. Oh dear. This is This is technical difficulties. So if, and right now, are you seeing a mourning dove?
Scrub Jay. We're
The
locked on
same scrub jay?
Scrub Jay persimmons.
What about now?
No change. Now we're seeing your workspace.
Okay. So if for some reason, so you're currently seeing my workspace. So maybe what I can do, since we know that, maybe what I can do is just kind of enlarge this workspace.
Right.
And we'll just kind of go along with this. For some reason, when we kind of go into when I start playing the show, we get off. We'll try it one more time. Are you seeing a chickadee?
Yes.
And so everybody notice that this chickadee, its body is about 1.5 chickadee heads long. What are you seeing now?
Chickadee.
Okay. So this is not gonna work. All right.
Morning dove. Morning dove.
Morning dove. All right. We'll just kind of do it this kind of weird way, but I don't know what's going on with it. That's a glitch.
Okay.
What's weird, I've been, for the last couple of years, I have been doing online Zoom presentations. This is the first time I've had this happen. Sorry that it happened for all of you, but we are going to try to do this together from here. So check out this morning dove. Look at this. So tiny little head proportionate to the body on this morning dove. So if you took one morning dove head, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 morning dove heads, you'd line them up along here. Boop, 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 boop. And so that's why the proportions are so important. It doesn't matter how many kind of chickadee proportions you put something into something. If you gave it, if you did chickadee details on something with morning dove proportions, it's not going to look like a chickadee. So what I then do is I start my drawing with a sort of line along the back of the bird here. So that's what I'm kind of getting right in here, right? So this bird has its head up a little bit. This would be a bird with it where its head is sort of in line with its back. And so here's an example of a bird with its head up. Right. And what I do is I look at this negative shape here. So before, when I was talking about this bird and looking at the negative shape along the back, you were seeing a different slide. Is that right, Chris?
Correct. Yes.
That's correct.
Wow. I have no idea what's happening in the world of Zoom. So, but what I'm saying here is that rather than looking at here where all the detail is, so there's gonna be a little bit of repetition here, but I'm gonna try to kind of go through this quickly, all right? What we do is we look past that, and what we're gonna do is we're going to draw the shape of the air here next to this bird. So in this one here, you'd be looking at this. Notice how when you're looking at the shape of the air, it's easier to see this curve than if you're looking at the J. Look at the J and you get distracted by detail. So here, this bird has nice, when we're talking about pat the bird, you're getting this angle here, and that's going to inform the whole drawing. The rest of the drawing is going to hang from that line. Here's a little scrub jay with persimmons. And so then what I did is I talked people through what my kind of first lines are. Putting in the head and the eye beak line. And then I look at what is the negative shape right here in front of the throat, and I put that in, I carve that in. So back negative shape, head, eye beak line, and then curve in the front. And then into this space here, that's where I am tucking the ball of the body. And on that, I'm adding a line for the tail and noticing where the legs come out, giving myself a line for those legs and just a little ball for its feet. Couple other angles that are useful that flesh that out are the Undertale Coverts here and that angle on the forehead. I guess this is making a lot more sense when you're seeing the same pictures that I think you're looking at. And then for the wing, what I was doing is I was first drawing the front edge of the wing, the leading edge of the wing, and then just sort of a mass behind that for kind of a curve of where the lump of the secondary feathers is going to be. So that would be my, on this little bird here, notice that this bird has its wing drooped. So starting here close to the front, and then the wing is drooped down. This one starting further back, and the wing is tucked up. So that I put a little dot in where my wing starts, where it ends, and I draw a line between those. And this initially just kind of capturing this as a little ball. And then this was my scrub jay number 1. Scrub jay number 2, the angles on the back. And then this was the scrub jay number 3, where at which point we figured out we're looking at different images. I'm going to break away from these birds for just a moment, these little kind of frames that we've blocked in. And what I'd like to do is just kind of block in the head and shoulders of a bird, here of a sparrow, to take a look at how I would go about kind of doing that in a little bit more detail, because we're going to kind of be doing a close-up of a bird head on the side. So I'm just going to give myself a part of a semicircle for its shoulders. There's a little ball of a head. If I'm drawing the bird that's looking towards me slightly, I will draw crosshairs over the face of the bird like this. So if I have a circle, I can think of lines crossing over that that are going to cross over right where the bird's beak is going to attach. So this bird's beak is going to attach in a little house-shaped box right here on where those lines intersect. So I draw a little house on the front of my bird. And then a line coming down to that and up from the line from the top of it, a line from the bottom corner that will show me kind of like this is going to be the shape of my beak. All these lines so far. Chris, another question for you. When I thought you were doing sketches of different birds, you were seeing the same photograph of the same bird?
We were seeing the 5 birds that were on that sketch.
Yeah, we were seeing your original 5-bird sketch.
Oh, you're seeing like the whole kind of welcome screen.
Yes. Yes.
Arg. Weird. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to put in some details on these birds. And at which point you might be saying to yourself, right, okay, I want to put some details on this bird, but I now have all these kind of loose lines drawn all over this page. And how do I get a clean, crisp drawing of my bird if I am starting with something where I've got all these little lines? When I draw, I will typically have, I will start my drawing lightly and loosely with a very pale blue pencil. And so I've got here a light blue colored pencil. And what I'll do is I will make my sketch of the sort of lines that we're talking about with this. Can you see what I'm doing on the document camera currently, Chris?
It's pretty dim.
Okay,
Yes, and it's very small.
Okay, so if what I do is I block in. So it is intentionally done pretty lightly here. If I do these drawings lightly and loosely with a pale colored pencil, then what happens is I can take my regular graphite pencil and I can draw directly over these lines, and our human brains will snap to the details that I'm getting with this pencil. So what I do is I do little kind of initial gesture sketches of birds like these, but I do them with this really pale light blue pencil. And then watch this. See if you are able to on your screen, actually what we'll do in case people are watching, I'm going to stop share. All right, so here's this light ghosty drawing that I've done. Notice when I draw over this, with graphite, how your eyes all of a sudden just snap to these graphite lines. And the fact that there is a underdrawing of light blue pencil in there is not really all that distracting. So notice how your eyes are going, you're thinking like, okay, but what are the lines that I'm going to do in here? I'm going to be showing you in just a moment. But what I want to show you is that if you do these initial lines here with a light colored pencil, then when you get in here and draw with your graphite, you are going to be, all those kind of original lines, those ghost lines, are going to just sort of fade into the background. Everybody's just going to, whoa.
Yeah, we went to your screensaver.
Technical difficulties here. All right. So what I do is I will draw extensively to kind of block in my shape at the start. And then what I do is I switch from that light colored pencil to a regular graphite pencil. And now I can start drawing crisp, clear details. So, but there are underdrawings like these that are underneath that entire drawing. And that's what people focus on, and that's what people see. So I will start with these kind of light sketches that are really loose, but I'm doing that with my colored pencil. And that's a really powerful secret, because it allows me to then get in a drawing of a bird that has all sorts of crisp details in it, but the general proportions of the bird are accurate, because I have kind of come from this template of what I did with my light pencil. So now I'm going to go back to sharing the screen. And so let's take a look at this head of this bird here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give my birds some beaks. So on your bird beak, you can make it nice and thin, and you've got kind of a warbler beak. You can make it thicker, and you're now more in the finch department. So you want to look, different species of birds have different shaped beaks, but you want to look at the specific one that you're dealing with. You'll often see that there's a little bit of a down curve in the mouth when you get to the back corner of the mouth. You also notice that I tend not to draw the line of the mouth all the way out to the tip. Things start looking pretty cartoony if you do that. It really starts to kind of, your bird will look a lot more Heckle and Jekyll. So what I do is I will just sort of have the top and the bottom, and I'll suggest there's a line that is going back there kind of from the corner of the mouth, but I don't bring that all the way out to the tip. The eye is going to sit on that eye beak line closer to the front of the bird than you think it should. So it's good to look at the space between the beak and the eye. And this isn't something that I really used to pay a lot of attention to. Now, when I'm starting to draw my birds, I really pay close attention to kind of getting the beak and eye placement relative to each other right. I don't want it too far back. I don't want it too close. And there's also, there are some, you can put a little bit of detail around your bird's eyes. There are often kind of rings of light feathers that are around the bird's eyes. So I'll kind of suggest that on my bird. The other thing that is useful to kind of get your kind of beak-eye connection working with your bird. Or so that, by the way, that line there, that's called the eye ring. Or the ocular feathers. And let's sort of take a look at that. So if you see how this bird, this one actually has a very clear eye ring. The ocular feathers around its eye are a different color. But you see how there's a tight little ring of feathers around there. All birds have that. It just in some birds, I should say most birds have that. But in some birds, it's differently colored. But even if your bird doesn't have it as a different color, you often will see a different kind of texture in those feathers right around the eye. So the next thing that I do now is I pay attention to kind of, there's a zone between the eye and the beak of the bird. There's sort of this angry birds zone. There's this sort of zone of feathers that are often kind of sometimes dark colored, a little bit dingy in there, a little bit bristly. And those are called, that area between the eye and the beak is called the lores, L-O-R-E-S. And you get your lores in there, and it really helps attach your eye to your beak. And that makes your eye not feel like it's a dark dot floating in a sea of bird head. From there, all right, so here you see those lores, this nice sort of dark area here. Also, if you look carefully on this, you see those little feathers right around the eye. So that's why I will often just sort of hint at just sort of a light line that goes around the eye. You kind of hint at the structure of those feathers. This little section here, the lores, helps kind of connect this beak and eye together. So you get the sort of the eye and the beak as one sort of package. And then we're going to kind of sculpt our feathers over the top of the head of the bird and down onto the throat. To do this, what I'm often doing is looking at what are the angles around the head of the bird? What are the angles that I am seeing? If my bird is looking towards me in a 3/4 view here, notice that the edge of the feathers goes to a point fairly far out along the edge of the bill. If you're just looking at a profile, the edge of the feathers comes down to the top of the bill. But if it's turned its head towards you, then the beak is starting further in on the head, so you actually see a little bit of head sticking out on the other side. So if you look at this, I'll show you kind of a cool little trick here. If my bird here, if I want my bird just to be a little bit more interesting, it's okay to have my bird here where you're looking at sort of the side view of its head. But I can really get just the sense that it's looking towards me just a little bit. If I take these feathers and I wrap them around so they're coming here, I'm going to move this out here a little bit. That means the center line of this bird's head is going to be up here. And just by moving that line in a little bit, you get your bird then, looking over at you just slightly, instead of just that kind of field guide side view look. A little bit more interesting to have it just turned towards you, just ever so slightly. Then I'm going to attach a pad of feathers down from the eye that's going to cover the bird's ear. The bird's ear is a hole that is somewhere down in here on the side of the head. And there's a patch of more stiff feathers that covers that. They've got a different texture than the rest of the head of the bird. And that ear patch really gives a lot of sculpture, kind of helps construct and carve the head of your bird. Below that is a zone of chin feathers called the malar. And these zones here, the eye ring or the ocular feathers, the lores, the ear patch, and the malar, what you want to do is to train yourself to be able to spot those on different birds. So take a look at this. So you see the eye ring. Then there's a zone of kind of bristly, kind of darker, dingy feathers between the eye and the beak in here. That's the lores. Here's your ear patch. And here is your malar coming up to the lower edge of the bill here. We'll take a look at this on another bird. So it'd be easy to think that these little creases in the head here are just that, there's some wrinkles, a weird wrinkle in the feathers of the bird. But you're really, if you kind of look for the zone of the lores, you see there's sort of a separate little zone in here of more kind of dingy feathers that are going to attach the beak to the eye, kind of connect those in. You've got a clear zone of feathers around the eye and sometimes a little hint of more like I'm the sleepy bird, little sag underneath it. Here's your ear patch. So going out from the back of the corner of the eye, down along the side of the face, and up back to the corner of the mouth. Hard to see kind of a crisp line for the malar here, but we sometimes do. These zones of feathers really carve the head of the bird. And if I include those in my sketches, my birds are going to have, I've created a topography that I can hang other marks and features on. And that really helps. So from there, what I'm going to do is then start to kind of now draw around the rest of the contours of these birds. So here is the back of this bird. I've drawn that in, drawn around the belly of this bird here. and into my tails. I am making my birds here just feel like they're a little bit fluffy. You see these little tick marks in here? The lower belly feathers and breast feathers of birds are a little bit longer. So I'll often, on the lower belly of the bird, I will often make that just a little bit shaggy. So here's without the shaggy marks on the bottom one. Here's just adding in a little bit of shaggy. See how just a few of these little tick marks. Notice that they're thicker towards the outside, thinner towards the inner. So let me stop over here. So if I were on this little warbler here, if I had, my belly feathers coming down like this, just like that, it feels kind of like its belly is made out of plastic. But if instead I give this just a little sense of flick, so I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure and a flick in and a pressure and flick in, pressure, flick in. That does a lot to kind of suggest that, this is kind of this shaggy zone here. I can fluff this up just a little bit here. Put a couple little kind of fluff ticks in there. I want this to look a little bit fluffier. I can flick in, so thicker towards the outside and then thinner. You see how that makes those feathers just feel a little bit softer. Maybe so a little bit of few little flicks in on the back of the head here. And that makes my bird body feel a little bit like I've got something that somebody's a little fluffy. Let me see here. We're going to jump back to the share. Chris, are you seeing the bird with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the colors on the bottom left-hand one?
Yes,
Yeah.
I am. Yeah.
Great. Still trying to check in on that. It really freaks me out that that wasn't working. And then I'm going to, for now, I'm going to get a little bit more sophisticated with the wings. For my wings, I want to think of the box of the secondary feathers and the primary feathers are going to stick out a little bit further in front of that. So a very simplified wing actually sort of has, instead of just kind of going out to a point, there's going to be a little bit of a step where the secondary feathers stop. And sometimes that's a little bit more smoothed down, but sometimes you see a kind of a real edge there. The other thing that I want to show is a suggestion of some of what are called the secondary covert feathers. So the secondary covert feathers are an arc of feathers that are going to swing across the wing. There's a big row, then there's a smaller row, and sometimes you even see a smaller row on top of that. Let me just kind of go over to one of these feathers here. See this big row of feathers and then a small row of feathers? These are curving across in these big arcs. Those are called covert feathers. And so what I do is if I have my basic wing drawn in, I will initially just sort of draw a curved line across that wing in the top part of it to give me space to put in my covert feathers. If your bird has wing bars in these covert feathers, that's where you're going to find your wing bars. So if you get a quick look at a bird and you go like, oh, there's white stripes going across its wings, 99% of the time, unless it's a Bohemian waxwing, what you're looking at are these sort of edges of these covert feathers, these secondary covert feathers. So that's so that my quick and dirty wing. I'm going back to this one. So you see I have my step down here. This part out here is going to be my primary feathers. Here is where I'm going to give myself room for my covert feathers. There may be, I probably would see part of another row of those up here, my sort of smaller row. Those are the greater and then the median. My lessers here are going to be covered up by my back feathers and my scapular feathers here and part of my breast feathers. . So often you'll see 2 rows of feathers. If my bird has wing bars, what that means is that the top parts of these feathers here are dark and the bottom parts are light, and that makes a dark stripe across the wing. And if the bottoms of these are white, then I get 2 wing bars. All righty.
Jack, can you maximize that screen?
Which screen are we?
The screen with the 5 birds.
Screen with 5 birds. Are you looking at it now?
Someone's asking that you maximize it to does not show the screens underneath.
All the little screens?
No, to the right side.
The not have the stuff on the right. So the
No, below that, there it's sitting on top of other screens.
so I can, but when that's in the past, what I was doing is I was going to the play function, and instead of doing this kind of clunky thing where I'm kind of going through these things, for some reason my slides weren't advancing with you.
We're fine. We're fine.
I know this is not ideal, but for some reason today, when I was going to the play function in the keynote presentation, it was not, people were not seeing what I thought they were seeing.
No problem. This is the fly by the seat of your pants bird festival.
That's true. That is true. So this is also quite by the seat of our pants. All right. So from there, I can draw feet. Sort of, I've got for now, I'm going to suggest that for drawing feet, just remember that you're going to have, there are 3 toes that go forward and there's 1 that's back. In a lot of positions, you can't really see all the toes. Don't stress out about drawing detail in the feet. The back toe has a little hook at the end of it, but just so it will tend to always be straight. So if you look at these birds' feet here, there's kind of a jumble of kind of knuckles and a suggestion of some kind of claws sticking out. Don't worry about overworking or don't kind of drop too much detail into the feet at the start. Like for this bird here, I can probably, if its foot is coming down onto a branch, I'll just sort of do how I might kind of handle a kind of quick foot if the bird's branch is right here. There's gonna be part of the toe that is straight that is gonna go behind the branch here. And the stuff that is coming over the top here, I'm gonna just suggest that there's some kind of just knuckly, bird foot thing here, but I'm not gonna get into too much detail about it. If I overwork the foot, everybody's gonna look right there. Give this one a little claw sticking out the back. On my website, johnmuirlaws.com, I have some tutorials just about drawing bird feet. For now, my general advice is that just to kind of keep that bird foot simple. Here's like a couple of like the easiest kind of quick and dirty bird foot is that you have a stick that comes down, slightly make it larger at the base, put that on top of a big circle, turn part of the back of that into your back claw. And if you're looking at the front of, if you're looking at the branch from the back here, right, then you're not going to really see very much coming over the top there. And there's a bird foot from the back. From the front, right, if there's a bird leg coming down here, you're not going to see much of the back claw, a little bit of a swollen part at the top. And then just think of kind of some kind of knuckly elements going over that. And then stop. And people will look at it and go like, oh, it's a bird foot. From there, I'm looking at kind of mapping on the bird where I see different zones of color and patterns and putting on plumage, and can get into sort of, where it's dark, where it's light, putting in the field marks. But all of that, those decorations go on top of a frame that already has the basic posture of the bird, the proportions of the bird, the angles of the back, the angles of the chest. And it doesn't really matter if you have lots of accurate details. If that basic framework is off, it's not going to really feel birdy. There is something that I think can really help people be able to draw the heads of birds. And what I'd like to do is that this is kind of more of an advanced little unit here. If you've ever been confused by the head of a sparrow with all those stripes on it, what I'd like to do is to break down the head of a sparrow and then show you some sparrow heads and show you that there's actually a system that you can have to help you understand a sparrow. So you're not just sort of like, oh, there's somebody and there are these stripes on their heads and I'm not really sure what's going on. How can you get something where you can understand those sort of stripes on the heads of the sparrow? So I'm going to suggest that people kind of give themselves a sort of a loose sparrow diagram on the side of their paper. Sort of the easiest would be here is my head. I'm going to have a little beak that's coming out here. My sparrow is going to have an eye in here. My sparrow has lores, giving it my angry birds look. A little bit of eye ring. Let's give your bird an ear patch. It's going to swing down along the side of the head and then connect to the corner of the mouth. It's going to have what's called the malar zone, which is a little area of feathers below that. And so this is your basic sparrow head template. And what we're going to see is that this can be modified to make all these different cool sparrow shapes, and all these different cool patterns you see on the heads of birds. Right. Let's go back to that share. So the first thing we're going to do, if you want to, you can make your eye look really cool. Lightly draw a little highlight, give it a darker pupil, and then make the rest of that eye kind of fade out. Put a little bit of shadow underneath that bill. Now, here we go. What about if you have a bird with a really, really stripy head? Well, the patterns on heads of birds follow a system. And if you know the system, it is easy to get those drawn in. And here's the way it works. We're going to start in the middle of the head and work our way down the face of the bird. We're going to give ourselves a little racing stripe right down the middle of the forehead. Thin little bar. This is not very thick, thin little bar. And that because it's in the median, like the median in the middle of the highway, this is your median crown stripe. I'm using the system of terms that's developed by David Sibley. Different authors have different terms for these names, but I like the ones that David Sibley uses the best. So there's our median crown stripe. Now what we're going to do is we're going to just drop down from that, and on either edge of that stripe is another stripe, and that is the lateral crown stripe. So there's still space above the eye, so you're leaving a big kind of zone above the eye. And on either side of the median, or so you've got your median crown stripe and your lateral crown stripes. Well, let's take a look at a birdie. Oh, look at that. There's your median crown stripe and your lateral crown stripes. You see that? So there's our median and lateral crown stripes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to drop down to this. So we're going to go from light to dark. So light to dark to light to dark to light to dark to light to dark. So we're going to go light, dark away across the head of this bird. So this light zone, we're actually going to divide into two areas. The front area right in here, above that, remember what this dark bar is here? That was our lores. So this light area above the lores here, and this light area above the ear patch, right? That is the supraloral. That's that area above the lores. Supra meaning above the lores. So the name of this zone here translates to above the lores. And then on the back side of that is what's called the eyebrow. So our supraloral and eyebrow. And take a look at this bird. There's your median crown stripe, your lateral crown stripes, your supraloral zone, and your eyebrow zone. And now we're down to the level of the ear patch, right? So the ear patch sits below that. Now, sometimes, let's take a look at one more. This is kind of cool. If your supraloral is pale, so this one bird has dark lores, but it's got light supralores, and the malar are white, it makes this cool X pattern across the front of the face of the head. I think this is a bell sparrow. And so it's looking at you with this kind of X face look. And what that is that the supraloral kind of lines up with the malar, like that. Here you can see that this one doesn't have a full crown stripe, but this spot here is the start of what would be the median crown stripe. The rest of it just is filled in. Now, if we take the top part of the ear patch and we make that dark, so this is just filling in the top part of the ear patch, that is called the eye line or the eye stripe. And the lores, of course, are the area in front. So if you have both of those dark, it looks like a full dark bar through the eye here. We mentioned already the eye ring. Sometimes the eye ring is light, even though everything else is dark. So it likes to kind of be contrasty. Let's take a look at this little one here. Look at the lores here. They're brown. And then here's this eye stripe. So that's the top part of the ear patch here. That's what's making this. So if you're looking up the head of this bird, okay, here's my lores, my supraloral and my eyebrow. And above that is my median crown stripe. I mean, not my median, my lateral crown stripes with the median in the middle. So you see that the head of this bird is following, it's different colors than these other things that we're looking at, but it's following the same These birds are following the same formula. They're following the same pattern. Look at that. Look at that. Right, so dark lores, dark eye stripe, and then I have crown stripes that are lateral crown stripes that are dark, right? This is following this, there's sort of the same template going across the heads of all of these birds. So if I learn this template, that's going to help me be able to draw them. So I can put in a little dark zone on the top. Sometimes there's a dark zone in the lores there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to make the bottom edge of the ear patch dark. The bottom edge of the ear patch dark. So on my little drawing, let's take a look at how that is on a bird. So here, this bird has a fairly dull head, but you can see that the top part of the ear patch is dark, and there's a little bit of streaking right along the bottom edge of that ear patch. Here's one that is a little bit clearer. So you see what's going on here? The stripes here are just the top and the bottom edge of the ear patch. That's the eye line and the mustachial stripe. That's what those are. They're just the top, think of those as the top and the bottom part of that ear patch. But in all these birds, it's not just a random streaking in the head here. There's my ear patch, and the top part and the bottom part are dark. There's one more thing to do. So here's my malar zone in here. And from the bottom edge of that malar zone, if I put in, oops, let's come in this way. If I put in a dark little bar on the bottom part of the malar, right below the malar, that's called a lateral throat stripe. So I've got my lateral throat stripe, my mustachial. You don't have to remember the names of these, but if you just remember that the edges of these zones can have a dark marking on them, then you can map those across the head of the bird. So the white part in the middle here is the throat. Here's my what's called the lateral throat stripe, which is the dark mark on the edge of the malar. Here's the mustachial, which is the dark mark on the bottom edge of the ear patch. Top edge of the ear patch is that eye stripe. Let's look at that on a bird. Look at that. So there's that white bar is the malar. You can have dark above and below that. Here, ear patch, dark above and below, and then those two dark lines on the forehead of the bird. So all these birds, you're seeing the same basic pattern across all of these birds. And that is really, really helpful. Here, it's all filled in. There's a little bit of supraloral here that is white, an eye ring that is white. The malar zone is lighter. And there is that, there's that little, chin stripe. Again, the lateral throat stripe right down here. You don't have to remember all these names. But if you remember the pattern, you're going to be able to draw all of these features on birds. And that is crazy powerful. That's crazy powerful. So let me just do a time check. Chris, how much time do I have?
We're running low. We've got about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
And one of the questions was, can you recap your basic initial line? So at
Yes.
the very end, maybe you could do the basic official basic lines.
Yeah. So I'm going to draw with my blue pencil, but I'm going to draw more heavily than I normally would, so it's easier for everybody to see, and then I will draw over that. So I have the line along the back of the bird. I'm then going to put in a ball for its head and its eye beak line. So I'm looking at how big is its head. And then there's what kind of angle you find right underneath its throat. So here I'm looking at the negative shape here. I started off with a negative shape that was back here. I then give myself a little body of my bird and block in where its tail goes. What is the angle on the forehead? What is the angle on those undertail coverts? Where does my leg come out? Where does the wing go? From some point in here to either above or below the tail. This one is going to go above. So those are my initial lines for carving the bird. And then let's make this kind of into a sparrow. I can draw over these and use this as sort of a framework for blocking in the patterns that I see on this bird. Let's turn this into a song sparrow. So I'm going to think to myself, all right, I've got my ear patch here. I have my malar here. Right? And I have my eye ring. Now, the center line of this bird's head is coming right here. And on either side of that, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little white space there that I'm not going to encroach on. And that's that median crown stripe. Now I'm going to give myself a lateral crown stripe, kind of going up here on this side. And a little bit on that side. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a line back from the edge of the ear patch here and right here on the bottom edge of the ear patch. Here's that little malar. I'm going to give myself a lateral throat stripe down there. And now I'm going to fill in just some line work on the rest of this bird. It really helps to understand the anatomy and the structure of the bird, how the different feather groups overlap, what you sort of find where. This bird has a dark back. It's streaky. And when I go to put the streaks on the chest here, remember if this bird is turned towards me just a little bit, so it's not a full profile view, the middle of its belly is going to be coming down here. I can think of this thing as a rounded shape. And I'm going to be putting my little spots and marks across that. Up in here, let's see. So for a song sparrow, you've got sort of a central dark spot. And then there'll be some spotty streaks that are coming up in here.
Okay, as you scribble, Jack, I'm gonna do a little review because we've got to close down in a minute or two. I'm gonna start by petting the bird and getting that line on the back. I'm gonna do a ball on the head. I'm gonna find my eye beak line, figure out my throat angle, do a little body circle, find a tail line, do a little forehead line, kind of sketch out some coverts, find my wing location, gonna draw a little house for the beak where the beak's gonna fit. And then I'm gonna start doing a little bit of eye work, the ocular eye ring, just locate some of those things, the ear patch and the malar. I'm gonna find a head center line. I'm gonna think about the median crown stripe and the lateral crown stripe. And then I'm gonna do the ear eye details. And I'm not gonna forget that I gotta make this a fluffy bird. So I'm gonna do the fluffy edges and then work on some details on the secondaries. And I can't forget simple feet, 3 toes in the front and a straight line toe in the back. Did I kind of summarize that?
You are hired. You rock. All right.
Okay, so
yes, I think we got to get you starting to do this. You totally got the system here.
I've got some scribbles and I'll show you later. But as we wrap up, that to me looks like a song sparrow.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that. I didn't have any reference material in front of me. I was just kind of going from the song sparrow in my brain, but kind of following some of the general principles and ideas that we're looking at. Again, the more you do, the better and better it gets. It's not about what you get on the paper. It's about looking at that bird that's out there in the field. The more you do this, the more you're going to find that that the birds on your page are looking more like the birds that are out there in the field.
If I wanted the bird in the field, I'd just snap the picture. But this is to help get that bird in the field in my brain, not on a picture, right?
Yeah, exactly. So the goal of this is to get this bird in our brain. And the way we do that is by trying to create the picture. But if the picture becomes the focus of what we do, then it can really stress us out because I gotta make a good picture, right? The picture isn't the thing. The bird is the thing. The bird is the thing. The picture is a tool that we use to help us look more carefully at that bird. Somebody's asking like what do you actually kind of get on your
before you go there, I just have to double check with Bob something. Bob, I think our next one is at 5 o'clock. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're going to slide directly in. So Jack, you can run right up to the top of the hour.
Okay.
No problem.
Yes.
All right.
Which gives you 4 more minutes.
So just to sort of show people that sort of when I'm sketching in the field, they don't look like field guide illustrations. So these are sketches that I did in the field, except for these. These are sketches that I did in the field of some ducks and shorebirds. These were kind of a study on dowitchers that I did later on when I came back. Went over to the East Coast, these were sort of got up one morning, and these were some sketches of some birds that I found as I was kind of, bopping around on there. So those would be field sketches. And, it's not so much about, again, the important thing is the bird that's out there. To help me look at it, I'm making some sketches of it. To help me remember it, I'm making some sketches of it. So the journal is essentially the finger pointing towards the moon. It's not the moon. The moon is the real bird, the real thing that's out there. And that's what I want to kind of train myself to kind of open my eyes to appreciate and to enjoy. And the journaling, the drawing is a tool to kind of enhance that, to get me to look again and to look again and to notice things that I otherwise would not have seen.
And you don't live right next door, so I can't go over to your house, but you do have a website, right? And I could probably go hang out there and learn a few things. Can you give me just a little plug for that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So on my website, I have hundreds of hours of free tutorials on drawing birds and stuff like that. I go deep on wing structure. I go deep on drawing feet and beaks and how they attach onto heads. So and then each week I teach 3 free nature journaling and drawing workshops where we'll take like a little part of something and go do a deep dive. Every Tuesday is something which we call Ask Jack. It's at 10 o'clock Pacific time. And what you do is you kind of come on, it's a free Zoom classroom, we open it up, and the students, the people who come in will give me a question like, I'm having a hard time drawing bird feet. Okay, we'll spend that next hour just on bird feet. Or they'll come in and they'll say like, I'm having a hard time drawing, landscapes with trees and in snow. Right? That's what I'm seeing a lot of right now. How do I do that? We'll just kind of go with people's suggestions and play with that. Every Wednesday is an educators forum where homeschool parents and classroom teachers are all getting together, where we're talking about best practices in using nature journaling as an educational tool. And every Thursday is a structured workshop where I know what I'm going to be teaching that day and can come with all sorts of lessons and materials planned. And so sometimes I'm showing slides. I need to kind of get under the hood and find out why slides weren't working in this workshop before my next one. But normally that works.
Hey, Jack, we have a minute and a half left, which I think should be time enough for this challenge. I would like the 90-second long-billed curlew.
90-second long-billed curlew.
Yes. In 90 seconds.
All right. So on our mark.
Get set.
I have to first get to. All right, here we go. So curlew. It's resting. It's going to be up on one leg. Kind of a 3/4 view. It's going to be looking out to the side. Generally, the beak is actually much straighter than you think it is. It just has a little bit of a dip down at the end.
What if it has a dip up?
Oh, then you're either in the southern hemisphere hanging upside down, or you found yourself that avocet.
Or a godwit, maybe? And I noticed those fluffy butt little lines you put in there.
Other foot is tucked up because it's cold. Maybe it's cold outside.
Now, some people came here for the sketching, and hopefully they're going to be staying for the curlewing.
Ah.
Because the next thing that's up is Heather Hayes, and she's going to talk to us about tracking the long-billed curlew, because right here in Morro Bay, we have kind of a famous curlew that flies back and forth. And he's in Morro Bay right now, but we're going to hear some of his history and where he's been and where he's going and how we know that sort of stuff. And Heather Hayes is going to be the one that's walking us through that.
That sounds like a fantastic workshop.
Jack, if you can talk while you're drawing, we've had a number of people ask, where do you go to get pictures to draw from, reference pictures? Online.
Online, I use two different sites. I use birdpixel.com and seeingbirds.com. Actually, this bird's got too much of a bend in that leg. I want that leg to be straighter. So Seeing Birds, work of Ashok Khosla, birdpixel.com is Vivek Kenzodi, and they both have their excellent, very well curated websites of bird photographs, and they have given permission to us sketchers and drawers and naturalists to use that whole collection as resources for our drawing and sketching. So birdpixel.com and seeingbirds.com are two really wonderfully curated, great sources. If you want a bunch of photographs to practice from, those are always my first stop.
And your website is?
My website is johnmuirlaws.com. And there's no registration required for any of those free classes that I teach. All you have to do is just go to that website, go to the calendar and click on the join meeting button for that day's meeting. And,
that's incredible. Well, hey, Jack, we've got to go, but I really appreciate your willingness to share your expertise. I honestly did sketch several birds right here in the front, and I'll show you those next time we're together. And I really appreciated it. So did about 250 other people. Thank you again for your expertise. And you know what? We lived through the little glitch, and people would want to ask questions. People would want to raise their hand, but we don't have time for that because we got to move into the next one. But thank you for your support of the festival, and we'll see you next year.